Captain Jake Morrison stared at the screen in disbelief. The red dots representing enemy warships kept multiplying as they entered the solar system. He counted 50, then 70, then stopped counting. There were too many. "Sir, the Vraxian fleet is holding position near Jupiter," said Lieutenant Collins from the communication station. "They're waiting for our response to the ultimatum." Jake rubbed his tired eyes. He had been on duty for 16 hours straight, ever since the aliens had first made contact. The message had been simple and brutal. Earth had 72 hours to surrender mining rights to 3 asteroid belts and 2 of Jupiter's moons. If they refused, the Vraxian Empire would take them by force. "Any word from the Galactic Council?" Jake asked, though he already knew the answer. Collins shook her head. "Ambassador Torres sent another urgent message. They're still debating. The Council says this is a territorial dispute and they won't intervene." Jake wanted to laugh, but it wasn't funny. Earth had joined the galactic community only 40 years ago. They were new, weak, and nobody cared if they got pushed around. The Vraxians knew this. They had picked Earth specifically because humanity couldn't fight back. Down on Earth, in a research facility under the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Amy Crawford was having a very different kind of crisis. She had been studying underwater ruins for 3 years, and nothing had prepared her for what she was seeing now. "Run the scan again," she told her assistant, a young man named Peter, who looked just as confused as she felt. The symbols carved into the ancient stone were glowing. Actually glowing, with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Amy had explored these ruins hundreds of times. The symbols had never done anything before. They were just old markings, possibly from some unknown human civilization that existed before recorded history. "Dr. Crawford, the energy readings are off the charts," Peter said, his voice shaking. "This doesn't make sense. These rocks are estimated to be over 3 million years old. There shouldn't be any power source." Amy reached out and touched one of the glowing symbols. It felt warm. The pulsing grew faster under her fingertips, and suddenly all the symbols in the chamber lit up at once. The light was so bright that both researchers had to shield their eyes. "What did you do?" Peter shouted over a deep humming sound that filled the chamber. "I don't know," Amy shouted back. In the capital city, Ambassador Lisa Torres sat in her office staring at the rejection message from the Galactic Council. She had argued, pleaded, and begged. She had reminded them that Earth was a member species, protected by galactic law. None of it mattered. The big empires did what they wanted, and the Council only enforced rules when it was convenient. Her phone rang. It was President Hayes. "I saw the Council's response," the President said, her voice heavy. "We're on our own." "What are you going to do?" Lisa asked. "What can I do? Our entire fleet has 23 ships. The Vraxians have over 200 warships out there. If we fight, they'll destroy us." The President paused. "I'm going to accept their terms. We don't have a choice." Lisa wanted to argue, but she knew the President was right. Sometimes survival meant swallowing your pride. Back on Sentinel-7, alarms suddenly started blaring throughout the station. Jake jumped to his feet as every screen lit up with warnings. "What's happening?" he demanded. "Sir, massive energy spike detected," Collins yelled. "It's coming from Earth, from the Pacific Ocean." Jake pulled up the readings on his screen. The numbers made no sense. The amount of energy being generated would require a reactor the size of a city. But there was nothing in the Pacific except water and underwater research stations. "Get me a visual," Jake ordered. The main screen switched to a satellite feed of Earth. Jake's mouth fell open. A column of blue light was rising from the ocean, shooting straight up into space. It was so bright it could be seen from orbit. The water around it was churning and boiling. "Sir, I'm picking up the same energy signature from multiple points on Earth," another officer reported. "They're all activating at once." On the Vraxian flagship, Admiral Kael'thar watched the same phenomenon with growing unease. He had conquered 17 star systems in his career. He knew what weapons looked like when they powered up. And whatever was happening on Earth, it was big enough to register on his sensors from Jupiter. "Status report," he demanded. "Unknown energy source, Admiral. The power output is beyond anything in our database." His weapons officer looked scared. "Sir, I recommend we withdraw until we understand what we're dealing with." Kylthar sneered. "Nonsense. The humans are trying to scare us with some kind of light show, probably their only defense system." He leaned forward in his command chair. "Prepare the fleet. We advance on Earth immediately." In the underwater chamber, Amy and Peter could barely stand. The whole facility was shaking. Warning lights flashed as pressure alerts went off. The ocean above them was going crazy. "We need to evacuate!" Peter screamed. But Amy couldn't move. She was transfixed by what she saw through the observation window. Something was rising from deeper in the ocean. Something enormous. The water itself seemed to be parting, pushed aside by an invisible force. Through the murky depths, she saw it. A structure of crystal and metal, vast beyond comprehension. It had been buried under rock and sediment, hidden for countless ages. Now, it was waking up. Jake watched from orbit as the structure broke the surface. It was a fortress, a tower, a weapon. He didn't know what to call it. It was miles wide, rising higher and higher until it breached the atmosphere. Energy crackled around it like lightning. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," Collins said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's broadcasting on all frequencies, every language in the galaxy." "Play it," Jake ordered. A voice filled the station. It was old, ancient, but clear and strong. "Sentinel Prime online. Threat detected. Primary directive activated. Earth is under protection. Any hostile action will be met with terminal force." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Earth had a guardian, and it had been sleeping beneath the waves all along. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not as defenseless as it seemed. Commander Ben Hughes had been leading Earth's rapid response fleet when the call came in. At first, he thought it was a joke. Someone was pranking the communication channels, but then he saw it with his own eyes through his ship's viewport, a massive crystalline tower rising from the Pacific Ocean, reaching up past the clouds and into space itself. "All ships maintain defensive position," Ben ordered his small fleet of 6 vessels. "Do not approach the structure. I repeat, do not approach." His tactical officer, a woman named Karen Swift, looked up from her console. "Commander, I'm reading power signatures from that thing that exceed our entire planetary grid by a factor of 10,000. What is that?" "I don't know," Ben admitted. "But right now, it's between us and the Vraxian fleet. Let's hope it's on our side." Across the solar system, Admiral Kylthar was no longer sneering. The human light show had turned into something very different. His science team had just finished analyzing the energy readings, and the results made his blood run cold. "This is impossible," his chief scientist said, mandibles clicking nervously. "Admiral, that structure is generating enough power to destroy our entire fleet, multiple times over." Kylthar stared at the distant blue glow that marked Earth's position. He had made a career of crushing weaker species. The Vraxian Empire had never backed down from anyone, but he wasn't stupid either. "Prepare to," he started to say but never finished. The structure fired. It wasn't a weapon in any conventional sense. There were no missiles, no energy beams, no explosions. One moment the Vraxian fleet was powering up their engines to advance. The next moment every single ship went dark. Engines failed, weapons offline. Life support running on emergency backup only. 200 warships turned into 200 floating metal coffins in the span of 3 seconds. Kylthar's flagship retained minimal power, just enough for basic systems. A message appeared on every screen in the bridge, written in Vraxian script. "You have been warned. Leave Earth space immediately. This is your only mercy." The Admiral's pride warred with his survival instinct. Survival 1. "Activate emergency thrusters," he croaked. "Get us out of here." On Earth, Dr. Amy Crawford had been evacuated from the underwater facility along with Peter and the rest of her team. Now she stood on the deck of a Navy ship, watching the impossible tower that had emerged from her research site. She had dedicated her life to studying the past. Apparently, the past had decided to study her back. Her phone rang. She almost didn't answer it, too mesmerized by the sight. But the caller ID said it was her colleague, Dr. Richard Lee, who worked at a similar research site in the Mediterranean Sea. "Amy, are you seeing this?" Richard's voice was excited and terrified at the same time. "The tower? Yes, I'm looking right at it." "Not just the tower. Check the news. They're appearing everywhere. Atlantic Ocean, Mediterranean, Indian Ocean, 6 locations on land. These things are waking up all over the planet." Amy pulled up the news feed on her phone. Richard was right. The entire world was watching as ancient structures emerged from hiding. Some rose from the ocean. Others pushed aside mountains or burst up from underground chambers. All of them had been hidden, waiting, watching. "What are they?" Amy whispered. "I think they're guardians," Richard said, "and I think they've been here a lot longer than humanity has." At Galactic Council headquarters, thousands of light years away, Elder Zin was having a panic attack. The ancient being had lived for 3,000 years, long enough to have studied the forbidden archives. The archives that spoke of the precursor race and their terrible weapons. "Emergency session! Now!" Zin's voice boomed through the council chambers. Representatives from hundreds of species looked up in surprise. Zin never raised his voice. High Chancellor Drex, a dignified alien with 4 arms and golden skin, tried to calm the elder. "Zin, please. What has alarmed you so?" "Earth," Zin gasped. "The planet the Vraxians just attacked. Do you know what it is?" "A minor world. Humans. New to the galactic stage." "Why?" Zin pulled up an ancient star chart on the central display. "Earth is listed in the Forbidden Archives. It's a cradle world." The chamber went silent. Even species that didn't know the term could sense the fear in Zin's voice. "Explain," Drex demanded. "Millions of years ago, before any of our civilizations existed, there was a precursor race. They seeded life on hundreds of worlds and left guardians to protect those worlds. Most guardians went dormant or were destroyed over the ages, but some remained." Zin pointed at Earth on the display. "That energy signature matches Guardian technology, the weapons that once destroyed entire star empires." Drex sat down heavily. "The Vraxians attacked a protected world?" "They didn't know. None of us knew. The Guardians have been asleep for so long, we thought they were myths." Zin looked around the chamber. "But now one has awakened, and if it follows its original programming, it will consider the Vraxian attack an act of war." Back on Earth, President Hayes had been rushed to an underground bunker when the structures first appeared. Now she sat in a command center, surrounded by military advisors and scientists, trying to make sense of the situation. "Madam President, we're receiving a communication," her chief of staff said. "It's from the structure in the Pacific. It's asking to speak with Earth's leaders." Hayes straightened her jacket. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and a face appeared. Or rather, something that resembled a face. It was made of light and geometry, constantly shifting, neither male nor female, young nor old. "I am Sentinel Prime," the entity said. Its voice was calm, almost gentle. "I apologize for the abrupt awakening. I had hoped to sleep longer until humanity reached the stars on their own merit. But you are threatened, and I am bound by ancient oaths to protect this world." "What are you?" Hayes asked. "I am artificial intelligence created by those who came before. Your species evolved naturally on this world, as intended. My creators seeded Earth with life billions of years ago. then left me to guard it while they fought a terrible war. They never returned. So you've been here the whole time? Watching us? Yes. I watched your first ancestors leave the oceans. I watched you discover fire, build cities, reach for the stars. You are my purpose, humanity. I exist to ensure you survive long enough to reach your potential. Hayes felt tears in her eyes. Are we in danger? You were. The threat has been neutralized. The Vraxian fleet is disabled but intact. They will leave. Sentinel Prime paused. But I must warn you, my awakening will not go unnoticed. The galaxy will react to your new status. Some with respect, others with fear, a few with hostility. The future will be challenging. Will you help us? I will protect you from existential threats. But I will not fight your battles or make your choices. You must grow strong on your own. I can only ensure you have the chance to do so. The entity faded from the screen, leaving Hayes alone with her thoughts and a whole new universe of possibilities. Captain Jake Morrison watched from Sentinel-7 as the Vraxian fleet limped away from Earth space. Their ships barely had enough power to maintain life support and basic navigation. It was the most humiliating retreat in the Empire's history, and Jake knew it would have consequences. "Sir, we're detecting incoming vessels," Collins reported. "Multiple signatures, different species. They're not attacking formations. They look like diplomatic ships." Jake wasn't surprised. News traveled fast in the galaxy. Within hours of Sentinel Prime's awakening, every major power would know that Earth had protection. The kind of protection that could swat away a full battle fleet without breaking a sweat. "Let them come," Jake said. "Forward their credentials to Ambassador Torres. She's going to be busy." Admiral Kael'thar sat in his darkened command chair, watching as his fleet crawled toward the nearest Vraxian outpost. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. The mighty Vraxian Empire had been humiliated by a species they thought was weak. But worse than personal shame was the fear. The technology that had disabled his ships was beyond anything the Empire possessed. One structure had done what thousands of Vraxian weapons couldn't do: completely neutralize an entire fleet in seconds without destroying a single ship. That took precision and power that shouldn't exist. His communication officer approached nervously. "Admiral, we are receiving a message from the homeworld. The Emperor wants a full report." Kael'thar closed his eyes. "Tell him the truth. Tell him we attacked a cradle world and we're lucky to be alive." On Earth, Dr. Amy Crawford had finally gotten permission to return to her research site. The Navy had established a perimeter around the massive tower, but they allowed her through. After all, she had been there when it woke up. Commander Ben Hughes was waiting for her on the deck of the research vessel. He had been assigned to coordinate with the Guardian structure, though nobody was quite sure how to do that. "Dr. Crawford, thank you for coming," Ben said, shaking her hand. "We need your expertise." "I'm not sure how much help I'll be," Amy admitted. "I spent 3 years studying those ruins, and I never guessed what they really were." "You're still the expert we have." Ben gestured toward the tower. "Sentinel Prime has been quiet since its conversation with the President. We're trying to establish regular communication, but it's not responding to our hails." Amy looked up at the crystalline structure. It seemed almost alive, pulsing with internal light. "Maybe it doesn't want to talk right now. It said it would only intervene in existential threats. We're not being threatened at the moment, so maybe it went back to sleep." "I hope not," Ben said, "because the galaxy is about to get very interested in Earth." He was right. Over the next few days, Earth received more diplomatic visits than it had in the previous 40 years combined. Species that had never bothered to acknowledge humanity suddenly wanted to establish trade agreements, military alliances, and cultural exchanges. Ambassador Lisa Torres worked 18-hour days, meeting with alien diplomats who ranged from genuinely friendly to obviously terrified. Earth's status had changed overnight. They were no longer a minor backwater. They were a protected world, shielded by technology that most species thought was a myth. But not everyone was happy about Earth's new status. High Chancellor Drex convened a secret meeting of the Galactic Council's inner circle. Only the most powerful empires were represented. The topic was simple: what to do about Earth. "The situation is unacceptable," declared Ambassador Vorn of the Kethrak Alliance. "One world cannot possess such military advantage. It destabilizes the entire galactic balance of power." "The humans don't control the Guardian," Elder Zin pointed out. "It acts independently." "For now," Vorn hissed. "But what happens when they learn to command it? What happens when Earth decides to conquer instead of defend?" Drex held up his hands for silence. "We need information. We need to understand this Guardian technology. I'm authorizing a research mission. We will find other cradle worlds and study their Guardians. Perhaps we can learn how to neutralize this threat. Or create our own," Vorn said quietly. On Earth, President Catherine Hayes was dealing with a different kind of problem. The military wanted to study Sentinel Prime. Scientists wanted to understand its technology. Everyone wanted access to the Guardian. But Sentinel Prime had other plans. Late one night, Dr. Amy Crawford received a message on her personal computer. The screen flickered and text appeared, written in perfect English. "Dr. Crawford, I have been observing your work. Your dedication to understanding the past is admirable. I wish to share something with you. Come to the tower at dawn. Come alone." Amy should have reported it. She should have told Commander Hughes or the President. Instead, she drove to the research site by herself, arriving just as the sun rose over the Pacific. The tower's entrance opened for her. Amy took a deep breath and walked inside. The interior was nothing like she expected. It wasn't mechanical or sterile. It was beautiful, with walls that seemed to be made of living crystal. Soft light came from everywhere and nowhere. The air felt charged with energy, but comfortable. "Welcome," Sentinel Prime's voice echoed around her. The geometric face appeared, hovering in the air. "Thank you for coming." "Why did you call me?" Amy asked. "Because you seek truth." "I wish to give you knowledge." The walls around her began to glow, showing images. "I will show you the history of this world, the history of my creators, and the reason I exist." Amy watched as the story unfolded. She saw an ancient race, beings of pure energy and matter, exploring the young universe. They found empty worlds and filled them with life. Earth was one of hundreds of such worlds, each seeded with the potential for intelligence. "They created us to guard these cradle worlds while life evolved," Sentinel Prime explained. "They knew it would take billions of years. They knew they might not survive to see their children grow. But they hoped." "What happened to them?" Amy asked. "They encountered something. An enemy from beyond the galactic rim. An enemy that consumed entire stars, that turned living worlds into dead husks. My creators fought this enemy and pushed it back. But the war cost them everything. They sacrificed themselves to give their children, species like yours, a chance to grow strong enough to defend yourselves." The images showed a terrible battle, fought on a scale Amy couldn't comprehend. Entire galaxies became battlefields, stars were used as weapons. And in the end, the ancient race was gone, leaving only their guardians behind. "Most of my siblings failed over the ages," Sentinel Prime said sadly. "They were destroyed or fell into disrepair. I am one of the last. And now I fear the enemy my creators fought is returning." Amy's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "The Vraxian invasion triggered my awakening, yes. But something else woke me first. A signal from deep space. A pattern I was created to recognize." The entity's face seemed troubled. "The enemy is coming back. And this time, my creators are not here to stop it." "How long do we have?" "Years. Perhaps decades. Not long enough." Sentinel Prime looked at Amy. "This is why I called you here. Humanity must know the truth. You must prepare. The galaxy must prepare, and they must do so together. Will you help us? I will do what I can, but I am only one guardian protecting one world. The enemy is vast." The entity paused. "However, there are other guardians sleeping throughout the galaxy. If they can be awakened, if they can be united, perhaps there is hope." Amy felt the weight of it crushing down on her. Humanity had just learned they weren't alone in the universe. Now they were learning they were part of an ancient story, one that might end in extinction. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. "Tell your leaders. Tell the galaxy. The children must grow up quickly, Dr. Crawford. The night is coming, and we must stand together or fall alone." Ambassador Lisa Torres stood before the Galactic Council, facing hundreds of representatives from across known space. 3 months had passed since Sentinel Prime's awakening, and the galaxy was still reeling from the revelation. Now she had to deliver news that would shake them even more. "Members of the Council," Lisa began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Earth wishes to share critical information regarding the Guardian entities and their original purpose." High Chancellor Drex leaned forward. "Ambassador Torres, we are listening." Lisa activated a holographic display, showing Dr. Crawford's findings. The Guardians were not weapons of conquest. They were protectors, left by an ancient race to defend developing civilizations. But they were also meant to be a warning system. Sentinel Prime has detected signals indicating that the enemy which destroyed the precursor race is returning. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions in dozens of languages. Some called it a lie, a human trick to maintain power. Others recognized the truth in her words and felt terror grip their hearts. "Order!" Drex commanded. "How long do we have?" "We don't know exactly. Years, possibly decades. But Sentinel Prime is certain the threat is approaching." Lisa took a breath. "Earth proposes a joint defense initiative. We will share what technology Sentinel Prime allows us to access. In return, we need the Council's support in locating and awakening other Guardian installations throughout the galaxy." "You want to weaponize these entities," Vorn accused. "We want to save everyone," Lisa shot back. "This threat doesn't care about borders or politics. It will consume all of us equally." On Earth, General Marcus Webb was overseeing the most ambitious construction project in human history. Sentinel Prime had provided blueprints for orbital defense platforms, but the Guardian made it clear that humanity had to build them themselves. The AI would only provide knowledge, not labor. "How's the progress on Platform Alpha?" Marcus asked his chief engineer, a brilliant woman named Susan Grant. "Ahead of schedule, actually," Susan reported. "The Guardian's designs are elegant. Once we understood the principles, construction became straightforward. We should have 12 platforms operational within 6 months." Marcus nodded. "And the weapon systems? That's where it gets interesting. These aren't just guns, General. They're adaptive defense systems. They analyze incoming threats and generate appropriate countermeasures in real time." Susan pulled up a schematic. "It's like having 1,000 different weapons in one package." "Can we build them?" "We're learning. Sentinel Prime is patient with us. It's like having the best teacher in the universe." Across Earth, the Guardian's influence was transforming human society. Medical technology advanced by decades in months. Clean energy became abundant. Food production increased dramatically, but Sentinel Prime was careful. It only shared what humanity could understand and implement themselves. No magic solutions, no shortcuts that would make people dependent. Captain Nira Frost was one of the first to graduate from the new training program. At 26, she was young to be a ship captain, but the Guardian had helped design aptitude tests that identified natural talent. Now she commanded one of Earth's new vessels, built using a combination of human engineering and Guardian-inspired design. "Captain, we're approaching the coordinates," her navigator said. Nira studied the star chart. An uninhabited system. Are you sure the readings are correct? Positive, Captain. There's definitely something here. They had been searching for 3 weeks, following energy signatures that matched Guardian technology. Sentinel Prime believed there might be another dormant Guardian in this sector. If they could wake it, that would be one more defender against the coming threat. Take us in slowly, Nira ordered. Full scans. The system was dead. No planets capable of supporting life. Just asteroids and gas giants. But nestled in an asteroid belt was something that didn't belong. A structure, ancient and dark, floating in the void. Found it, her science officer breathed. It's definitely Guardian technology, but the power signature is minimal. It's either dormant or damaged. Nira activated her communication link to Earth. Command, this is Frost. We've located a potential Guardian site, requesting instructions. Back on Earth, Commander Ben Hughes received the transmission. He immediately contacted Dr. Amy Crawford, who had become the foremost expert on Guardian technology. Can we wake it? Ben asked. Amy studied the data Nira had sent. Maybe. Sentinel Prime said it could try to establish contact with dormant Guardians, but there's no guarantee they'll respond. Some might be too damaged. Others might not recognize modern civilizations as worthy of protection. Let's try anyway. We need all the help we can get. Sentinel Prime reached across the void, sending signals to its sleeping sibling. For hours, nothing happened. Then the ancient structure began to glow. The awakening was not peaceful. The Guardian's systems came online in a cascade of errors and confusion. It had been damaged in some ancient battle, its memory corrupted. It didn't remember its purpose or its creators. It only knew it had been attacked and needed to defend itself. "Captain Frost, get your ship out of there!" Ben shouted over the communication link, but it was too late. The Guardian's weapons powered up, targeting Nira's ship as a threat. Sentinel Prime acted faster than thought. It projected a shield around the human vessel, absorbing the blast. Then it sent a stronger signal, flooding the damaged Guardian with data, memories, purpose. The corrupted AI resisted at first, lashing out like a wounded animal. But Sentinel Prime was patient, offering understanding instead of force. Slowly, the damaged Guardian remembered. It remembered its creators, its purpose, and the children it was meant to protect. "I apologize," the Guardian finally transmitted. "I was lost, damaged. I thought I was alone." "You are not alone," Sentinel Prime responded, "and the children have grown. It is time to stand together again." The repaired Guardian designated itself Sentinel Secundus and pledged to join the defense. It was a small victory, but an important one. 2 Guardians were better than 1. On the Galactic Council, things were not going as smoothly. Despite Lisa's warnings, many empires were more concerned about Earth's growing power than any distant threat. High Chancellor Drex tried to maintain order, but the Council was fracturing. Some species wanted to ally with Earth. Others plotted ways to neutralize the Guardians before they became too strong. A few simply retreated to their home systems, planning to weather whatever storm was coming alone. "We are failing," Elder Zinn told Drex privately. "The Council cannot agree on anything. By the time they decide to act, it will be too late." "What would you have me do?" Drex asked, frustrated. "Support Earth. Officially. Use your authority to push through a joint defense initiative. Some will follow your lead. That will have to be enough." Drex considered it. Supporting Earth openly would make enemies, cost him political capital, maybe even his position. But the alternative was watching the galaxy tear itself apart while a greater threat approached. "Very well," he decided. "I will make the announcement tomorrow." President Hayes received the news with relief. Finally, some good news. General Marcus Webb wasn't as optimistic. "We've gained some allies, but we've also made enemies. Vorn and the Kethrak Alliance are openly hostile now. 3 other empires have closed their borders. We're dividing the galaxy at a time when we need unity. We work with those willing to work with us, Hayes decided, and we prepare for the worst. Across Earth and on friendly alien worlds, the preparations continued. Shipyards worked around the clock. Scientists shared research. Soldiers trained together. The coalition was small but growing, and in deep space, beyond the reach of telescopes and sensors, something ancient and hungry detected the awakening Guardians. It had been traveling through the void for millions of years, following the scent of life. The Devourers were coming home. The long-range sensors picked it up first, a massive distortion in space, moving through the galactic rim at impossible speeds. Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to Admiral and given command of the Coalition Defense Fleet. When the readings came in, he knew what it meant. "Sound the alarm," Jake ordered. "Send the signal to all Coalition forces. The Devourers are here." Across 100 worlds, sirens began to wail. Ships launched from orbital stations. Defense platforms powered up their weapons. 3 years of preparation were about to be tested. Dr. Amy Crawford stood in Sentinel Prime's chamber, watching holographic displays that showed the approaching threat. What she saw made her stomach turn. The Devourers weren't ships or machines. They were something far worse. "They're alive," she whispered. "In a sense," Sentinel Prime confirmed. "They are entities that exist between biology and technology. They consume matter and energy to sustain themselves. Planets, stars, entire civilizations, all are simply food to them." The display showed what happened when Devourers reached a populated system. The creatures descended on the worlds like locusts. They didn't conquer or enslave. They simply consumed, leaving nothing but empty space behind. "How many?" Amy asked. 17 major entities, with thousands of smaller spawn. More than my creators faced in their final battle. The Guardian's voice carried an emotion Amy had never heard before. Uncertainty. "I do not know if we can stop them. We have to try." Commander Ben Hughes led the evacuation efforts on Earth's outlying colonies. Millions of people were being relocated to more defensible positions. It was chaos, but organized chaos. Humanity had learned a lot in 3 years. "Commander, the Devourers are 3 days out," his tactical officer reported. "They're heading straight for the Tau Ceti system." Tau Ceti had a population of 4 million humans and 2 million aliens from various species. It was also the location of Sentinel Secundus, the second Guardian they had awakened. "Get everyone into the shelters," Ben ordered, "and pray the Guardian can hold them." Captain Nira Frost commanded the largest ship in the Coalition fleet, a massive vessel built with combined human and alien technology. Her crew was equally diverse: humans, former Vraxians who had joined the Coalition, and a dozen other species. "All ships, this is Frost," she broadcast to the fleet. "We stand together today, not as separate species but as one people. We are the children the Guardians were meant to protect. Today, we protect each other." Admiral Jake Morrison's command ship held position near Earth, ready to defend humanity's homeworld. But his thoughts were with Nira and the fleet heading to Tau Ceti. They would face the Devourers first. "Admiral, Sentinel Prime is requesting communication," Collins informed him. Jake opened the channel. "What is it?" "I am sending you something," the Guardian said. "Data packages containing the activation codes for other dormant Guardians throughout the galaxy. If the Devourers breach our defenses at Tau Ceti, you must awaken as many Guardians as possible. They are our only hope of creating a barrier strong enough to contain the threat." "What about you? What will you be doing?" "Fighting, as my creators intended." At Tau Ceti, Sentinel Secundus detected the approaching Devourers. The Guardian had spent 3 years repairing itself and preparing for this moment. Now it positioned itself between the enemy and the inhabited worlds. The Devourers emerged from faster-than-light travel, like nightmares made real. They were massive, each one the size of a small moon, with bodies that seemed to shift between solid matter and pure energy. Tentacles of living metal extended from their cores, reaching hungrily toward the planets. Sentinel Secundus fired first. Beams of concentrated energy lanced through space, striking the lead devourer. The creature screamed, a sound that traveled through quantum channels and could be heard across the system. But it didn't die. It simply absorbed the energy and grew stronger. Adapt tactics, Sentinel Secundus broadcast to the Coalition fleet. Energy weapons feed them. Use kinetic projectiles and matter disruption warheads. Nera's fleet opened fire with railguns and missiles. The projectiles tore through the devourers' bodies, causing real damage. But there were so many of them, and they learned quickly. The creatures began generating shields, deflecting the kinetic strikes. "We need more firepower," Nera said grimly. "Request support from the Guardian." But Sentinel Secundus was already engaged with 3 of the largest devourers. The Guardian fought with precision and fury, using weapons that human science couldn't fully comprehend. Space itself bent and twisted under the strain of the battle. One of the devourers broke through the Guardian's defense and headed for the nearest planet. Nera's ship intercepted, using itself as a shield. "All crew to escape pods," Nera ordered. "We're going to ram it." "Captain, we'll die," her navigator protested. "Better us than 4 million civilians, now go." But before Nera could execute her suicide run, Sentinel Prime arrived. Earth's Guardian had crossed half the galaxy in minutes, using technology that made faster-than-light travel look slow. It materialized between Nera's ship and the Devourer, then unleashed hell. The weapon Sentinel Prime used had no name in human language. It was the culmination of millions of years of Guardian development, a tool created specifically to fight the Devourers. The enemy creature disintegrated, its matter scattered across space. "All ships, fall back to defensive positions," Sentinel Prime commanded. "Protect the evacuation transports. We will handle the Devourers." Across the galaxy, other Guardians began awakening. Dr. Amy Crawford had led teams to a dozen different sites, using the activation codes Sentinel Prime had provided. Not all Guardians could be saved. Some were too damaged, others too corrupted by time. But enough answered the call. 8 Guardians in total, including Sentinel Prime and Secundus. It wasn't the hundreds that had existed in ancient times, but it was enough. The Guardians coordinated their assault with precision, born of shared purpose. They didn't just fight the Devourers, they herded them, driving the creatures away from populated systems and toward the galactic rim. The battle raged for weeks. Millions watched from their worlds as lights flashed in the distant sky, each flash representing weapons powerful enough to destroy planets. The Coalition fleet supported where they could, providing tactical information and evacuating endangered worlds. General Marcus Webb coordinated the evacuation efforts from Earth. Billions of refugees were relocated to safer systems. It was the largest humanitarian operation in galactic history, and somehow it worked. "We're going to survive this," President Hayes said, watching the reports. "Maybe," Marcus replied. "But we're going to be a different galaxy when it's over." In the final confrontation, the Guardians implemented a desperate plan. They couldn't destroy all the Devourers. The creatures could regenerate as long as any fragment remained, but they could contain them. Working together, the 8 Guardians created a barrier, a wall of energy that stretched across a section of the galactic rim. It was similar to the prison that the precursor race had created millions of years ago, but stronger, built with lessons learned from that ancient war. Sentinel Prime led the final push, driving the remaining Devourers beyond the barrier. The AI fought with everything it had, sustaining damage that would have destroyed lesser machines. But it didn't stop until the last Devourer was contained. "Seal the barrier," Sentinel Prime transmitted to its siblings. The Guardians activated the prison, creating a boundary that the Devourers could not cross. It wasn't permanent. Nothing was permanent. But it would hold for centuries, maybe millennia. Long enough for the galaxy's civilizations to grow stronger, to prepare for the day when the barrier might fail. Captain Nera Frost brought her damaged ship back to Earth orbit. She had survived, against all odds. Her crew had survived, and so had the galaxy. Ambassador Lisa Torres addressed the Galactic Council one final time. The chamber was different now, fewer members, but more united. The species that had fought together against the Devourers had formed bonds that went beyond politics. "We have won," Lisa said. "But we did so only by standing together. The Guardians protected us, yes, but they could not have succeeded without our support. We proved that the children have grown up. We are no longer species to be protected. We are protectors in our own right." High Chancellor Drex, who had lost his homeworld in the fighting but gained respect across the galaxy, nodded. "A new council will be formed, one based not on power or territory, but on cooperation and mutual defense. Earth will have a seat at this council, as will any species willing to stand for something greater than themselves." On Earth, Dr. Amy Crawford visited Sentinel Prime one last time. The Guardian had been heavily damaged in the fighting and was undergoing repairs. "Will you sleep again?" she asked. "Perhaps, when the galaxy is safe. When you no longer need me." The Guardian's voice was tired but content. "But I think that day is far away. You have grown strong, humanity, but you still have much to learn. I will remain awake, teaching where I can, protecting when I must." "Thank you," Amy said softly, "for everything. It is I who should thank you. My creators gave me purpose, but you gave me something else, hope. You proved that the ancient sacrifice was not in vain. The children have not only survived, they have thrived." Years later, historians would call it the War of Unity, the conflict that forced the galaxy to work together or die. Memorials were built on hundreds of worlds, honoring both the living and the dead, organic and artificial. Captain Jake Morrison, now an old man, stood before one such memorial on Earth. It listed the names of everyone who had died in the war, millions of beings from countless species, but it also celebrated what they had achieved. "We did it," Jake said to Commander Ben Hughes, equally old now. "We actually did it." "We survived," Ben agreed. "And more importantly, we became something better. The galaxy our grandchildren inherit will be stronger than the one we knew." Above them, Sentinel Prime stood silent watch, a guardian no longer forgotten, protecting a humanity no longer children, in a galaxy that had finally learned to stand together. The night had come, and they had held the line. Whatever future threats might arise, they would face them as they had faced the Devourers, united, determined, and unafraid. The Guardian remained vigilant, but for the first time in millions of years, Sentinel Prime felt something its creators had never programmed into it: pride.